Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Huh. I see there's somebody here who is already, Jubril is already on here and waiting. And Ambrose Ayodele says is also waiting. So I'm not going to waste too much time. Let's get started. Today, I am actually going to be very strict about the 1 hour timeline because I definitely do not need to, I don't want to go beyond that. So forgive me, but I'm going to be watching the time. Once it gets to 2 minutes to, well, 5 minutes to, I'll start rounding up. And then once exactly 1 hour, I'm going to close, I'm going to shut it down. Unfortunately, I have something else I need to do, so I can't afford to stay on them. But anyway, let's get down to it. So, in case you see my eyes moving back and forth, I've got IG Live here and I've got YouTube here via StreamYard. So, good afternoon to you, everybody, and let's just start quickly. Okay, so I was definitely disappointed. In fact, more than disappointed, I was heartbroken by the Super Falcons' failure at WAFCON. And as much as, as bad as it was, and in many ways, it was something that we could almost see coming. It just still felt so terrible. Like it's still surreal that for the first time in what, 20, almost 30 years, Nigeria will not be going to the Women's World Cup. And what is worse is not just the fact that it's the Super Falcons, it's also that the Super Eagles also failed to qualify for the World Cup. And if we must go back a bit further, for the 2022 World Cup. So that's 3 World Cups in succession that we have failed to qualify for. And there can be no sugarcoating it. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And we can't afford to continue like this. Now, we can talk about Madugu, we can talk about the players, we can talk about everything. And I'm going to try a little bit to dive into that just for, not for too long, because um, it's not just a Madugu problem, it's not just Super Falcons problem. If we take a deeper dive into this thing, it's not normal that for the last, what, 10, 12 years, we have consistently failed to qualify for major tournaments. It is not a one coach problem. It is not a one administration problem. It is a deep seated structural issue that we have with our football, and it needs to be addressed. And that's where we need to start from now. We can talk about the Madugu issues, and they are very, very real, but they are also a reflection of the deeper problems that plague Nigerian football at a very fundamental level. And so I'm going to start from there, first of all. So Madugu. Madugu got a lot of things wrong. The one thing that I'm always an advocate for is that a coach should be given the chance to succeed or fail. And I've never wavered from that. I can criticize the coach. I can criticize his tactics or his whatever situation is going on there. But I'm not going to advocate for firing him until he has got a chance to prove himself all the way. Now, somebody came after me, I'm not sure, on Twitter the other day saying that, I think I saw that thing yesterday. There was a clip of Randy Waldrum talking about how a certain male journalist was, some conflict he had with some certain male journalists anyway. And some follower came over and said, oh, he swears that was me. And usually I don't take these things seriously, but the reason why that I was like sort of galled by that in a little bit was the fact that, one, it wasn't me. Two, you don't know what you're talking about, and you automatically assume and you swear that it was me. When even at that point, everybody knew. Even at the point when Madugu said, sorry, not Madugu, Waldrum, at the point when Waldrum said what he said, everybody knew who that gentleman was, knew what the situation was with them, and how it was, I won't call it resolved, but how it was dealt with at the time. And then okay, I'm not going to call people names, but some person, some faceless online character decides to come and say and assume that that was me when obviously it wasn't. So I'm going to just let that rest for now. But anyway, back to Madugu. Madugu's biggest problems at this tournament first was that he had a lot of players coming back from injury. well, not a lot of players, but some players. I believe Michel Alozie was coming from injury. Esther Okoronkwo was returning from injury. Um, Nadevi had some personal issues with a bereavement. And of course, he was, I think, Gloria Obonna was also coming from injury. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think, no, Aziza was fine. So, here's the problem, and which I think was the major one that destabilized the entire setup, is that for the last few years, we have not had a left back, a natural left back. And so what has happened is Ashley Plumter, who is a centre back, has usually been deployed at left back. And she's done such an amazing job there, mostly because she's naturally left footed, that the, should I say, the drawback hasn't really been that noticeable. Now, when Plumter got injured, Madugu now decides to do something completely different. First of all, he picked two left backs. Gloria Agbonna and Rofiat Imuran are natural left backs he picked up. But you go to a tournament and he decides, okay, I have two natural left backs. I'm not going to play them. Instead, I'm going to play Michel Alozie. Now, put this into perspective. Michel Alozie is a forward, a right-sided forward. But Randy Waldrum, when he brought her into the national team, said he told her that she wouldn't make it as a forward because of how many forwards were. She wouldn't get to play. He wanted her in the team because of her quality, but he didn't want her to get there, so he put her in at right back. And in credit to her, in fairness to her, Colin, I'll come after you later. Nobody can cancel me, by the way. So in fairness to her, she came in at right back and she did an amazing job. But she was still a converted right back. She was not a natural right back. Now, Madugu goes to a tournament and now decides, oh, okay, I have two left back, but I don't want to use them. I'll take this converted forward who was playing at right back and put her at left back. He does that. Now, what that does is shakes up the entire balance of the team, because usually Nigeria's biggest threats come from wide areas, no matter how we play. That means the fullbacks bombing forward, or, well, generally the fullbacks bombing forward to support the attacking players. And Alozie, because she's also naturally a forward, she was doing that really well. So now you take her to left back, where she's not as comfortable playing, going forward and back, and you now take Shukurat Oladipo, who is naturally a centre back who's not used to playing right back, and you plug her there at right back. Automatically, you've completely ruined the balance, or this compromised the balance of the team. Shukurat does not have any attacking bone in her body. All she does is play as a centre back, which is get the ball, find a way to either lump it forward or find someone to give it up to. She doesn't have the instincts to go forward, take on players, deliver crosses, or cut into the box. That was something that Alozie did very, very well from that right side. On this side, Alozie, who is not usually on this left side, also found it a bit of an issue doing the same thing. Defensively, she could do the job, but offensively, she was compromised. And sometimes we saw a little bit when she kind of like got a brain freeze, like when she gave away the penalty against Egypt, and I think a couple of other occasions when she was involved in some bad decision making, ultimately. So that comes down on the coach. But again, it's also a reflection of the broader issues that we have, because how is a coach telling us, first of all, that you picked two left backs and you couldn't use either of them? I think in his last press conference before the final, he said something about one of the players was injured, the other one could not fit when he actually played out. So which means how do we say it? By extrapolation, it means that Rofiat Imuran could not cut it at that level. Sorry, that's an airplane going above me, because I'm outside today and it's kind of, I'm outside so I can enjoy some sunlight. But anyway, it means that Rafiat Imran could not cut it, and then Gloria Bonner was not fully fit. So, which begs the question: if she was not fully fit, why did you pick her for the squad? And not only did you pick her for the squad, you had the opportunity to pick 26 players to go to this tournament. You picked 25. So if you knew you had a deficiency in that left back position, at least give a local player on left back a chance to be in the squad, so they could actually maybe at least get a chance. So you deliberately undercut yourself by picking 25 players when you could pick 26, and then you don't have a left back. This tournament was postponed from February, March, all the way to July. The Nigeria Women's League was going on all the way for, I think, a few months. Madugu is based here in Nigeria. So Madugu is telling us that in the entire Nigeria Women's League, he could not scout and find a single left-footed player, a left back, who was good enough to make his Super Falcon squad, where the likes of Malawi and co were picking Morocco, Algeria, and co were picking players from the local leagues. Madugu is telling us that he could not find a good local-based left back to take to his squad and make it a full 26-player squad, but he could only pick 25 players. So that is part of the coaching problem. I'm not going to go into tactics because, again, is that aircraft flying above me? I'll leave in a minute. Well, okay, right? Whatever. So, but yeah, it's aircraft going above us. But anyway, so again, I'm not going to go into the tactics and this and that because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter quite as much when we look at the big picture, right? I've said it before that the game we played against Cameroon was the best game we played all tournament long. Cameroon were dominated. If you look at it, both via the eye test and the measurables. Jubril, don't mind me. Let me. I'll come to you at some point, but let me get all of this off my head first. Let me get my monologue off my head. So we dominated Cameroon, who of course were eventual champions. They did not get a shot on goal. We had more shots on goal. We had more possession. We had more of everything. Like I said, whether it's by the eye test or by the measurables. And if we had taken our chances, including the last one, we probably win that game. So it was just a question of margins. And then we go into that South Africa game, and I don't know whether it was just because from what I understand, the players were already down. They did not even realize that they had a playoff game. They thought after they lost to Cameroon, they thought they were out. So they were crying, they were doing this, they were doing that, so we're not eating. So we're knocking their heads against the wall and that sort of thing, and bawling their eyes out, thinking we had completely lost. So that's a different conversation entirely. But anyway, point being that we didn't play that as badly as it would look as if we did. So, and that's why I'm not going to go into the tactics or whatever it is, because at the end of the day, if the team had taken the chances they had, and they had numerous chances against Cameroon, if they had taken them, we win. We had chances against South Africa. If we had taken them, we win. Although there are also question a little bit the coach's choice of personnel, because if he starts with right personnel, we win that game too. Why you had this, you play against South Africa team that we know are a very possession-based team. Every time we've played them, they've held possession. What we've beaten them with has been, in transitions, being very direct and all of that. And then starting against them, you decide to take one of your best midfielders out of the equation. Christy Uchebe, her combination with Deborah Abiodun in midfield has been shown to be very, very effective at dealing with these possession issues. But you took her out and start. I do the stats again, but in essence, you compromise the midfield. So those are all the issues, and like I said, Madugu made mistakes, and the mistakes came home to bite. But it's also a reflection of the bigger problem within the squad. And why do I say that? It starts with the left back. We have a whole league of 20 teams with each having at least 25 players per team. So what are we saying? in that whole group of what is it, 60,000 or 600 players or thereabouts, you cannot find one or two good left backs to bring into your team for a major tournament. And even if you can't find a good one, why do you compromise your team by picking less than the number of players you need to go to the tournament? Was that a Mario good decision? Was it an NFF decision? I don't know. But at the end of the day, as a coach, you have to put yourself in the best possible position to win, and he did not. Simple as that. And then we come to the preparation. You know, in many ways, when we are blaming Maduguna, we talk about, okay, did he have the chance to look at those players? I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if he had been watching league matches, or at least monitoring players in the local league, he would have at least seen one or two players that he would have added to that squad. One, to make it up 26. Two, to give himself a natural left back if the ones he had were not available. The no would be that because he did not get enough preparation time, he probably could not try out as much as he wanted to. And that's why missing those two training windows for friendlies was very critical. I heard the NFF president say that they played a game in November. I don't think so. I know they missed 2 windows. Now, whether it was November and February, I'm not sure, but I think I definitely missed 2 windows because we were talking about it at the time when they are missing this window and then they missed another one again. Now, he has said that it's difficult for them to find friendlies because teams don't want to play Nigeria. Well, if you don't want to play Nigeria, you know, then like I said, go with the Ismail Amabo way. And even the US national team does that. Get the players together in camp, let the coach work with them, and then organize some matches against the under 16, under 14, under 17 boys teams. That is strong competition. I've seen the US women's national team play against boys teams. I mean, they get beaten, yes, but that's quality opposition. But it gives you a chance to test out your tactics and your players against in a real match situation. So if you can't find friendly matches against African teams or whatever, then play against boys teams or play against Europe. We used to do that. So why did we stop? Even if you can't find matches, get the team together. If there's a window, get the team together. That's how the coach works with them and at least gets to see players. So that speaks to administrative issues. Which brings us now into the post-WAFCON decisions. The first was the NFF's setting up of a task force to investigate the causes of Super Falcons non-qualification and also the rest of the Nigerian football issues. Ziggy! That's my dog, sorry. I don't know why he's making. So you're setting up a committee to investigate the Super Falcons failure. Ziggy! To investigate Super Falcons failures. As far as I'm concerned, that is unnecessary, and I'll tell you why. Because as far as I'm concerned right now, that move is essentially a political move to show, oh, we're doing something, or we're taking action after the failure. But in fairness, it just doesn't cut it for me, and this is why. In 2019, under the leadership of Amaju Pinnick, in fact, let's go back to 2010. In 2010, after the World Cup debacle, there was a committee set up to investigate failures, but similar to this one. They came up with some paperwork, like we call in Nigeria white paper. It was dumped to the side, nothing was done. In 2019, under Amaju Pinnick, an NFF reform committee was set up. And some of the names on that committee were up here. I'm not saying it because I was in that committee, because I was. I can give you some of the names. Sheyi Akinwumi, who was former NFF vice president, and Sheyi Akinwumi is a brilliant man. When I say brilliant, Sheyi Akinwumi is a corporate lawyer with many years of experience handling, in fact, he has handled the top mergers in the Nigerian corporate space. If you think of some of the biggest company mergers you've had in Nigeria, Sheyi Akinwumi was involved in it. He was also NFF first vice president under Amaju Pinnick. Abayola, who has served, the late Abayola, who passed away recently, I think it was early this year or so, was part of that committee. Elijah Ayo Midiro, who's now a member of Nigeria's, is a member of Nigeria's House of Reps, and owner of Omidiron Babes that competed for years in Nigeria Women's Premier League, was part of that committee. Chisom Bonu was in that committee. Gordon Anayana was in that committee. We had a member, forgotten his name, was from MTN at the time. He's part of that committee. Let me see. I'm trying to remember the others. Shehu Diko, the current NFC chairman, was in that committee. And some other corporate, but just to give you an idea of the kind of people that were in that committee, we had to move from the corporate world, from media and then you had I think I'm trying to remember his name. Now that committee worked between November of 2019, was it October or November of 2019, up until I think January of 2020. So that was like a 3-4 month job. And if I tell you that the amount of research, the amount of work, the amount of effort that was put into that committee, we spoke to people from outside this country. We spoke to people from within the country. We spoke to corporate folks, technical people, even as far as England, South Africa, USA, just to amalgamate all the ideas and homologate them into something we could localize for Nigerian football. And when we finished, that report covered everything from academies, youth football, women's football, league football, national team, administration, marketing, commercialization. Everything was encapsulated in that document, drawing from ideas from home and abroad. There's nothing that is being done in, say, US, England, Europe, South Africa, that we did not consider, and then, localize it to fit the Nigerian environment, because we understand our environment more than anybody else. So even if somebody were to come in from outside to say, hey, I want to do this, you have to look at the Nigerian environment, and businesses that come into Nigeria and do not work within the way our environment works will not succeed. Because if you bring in, let's say, an American or European idea into Nigeria, no matter how you do, you have to localize it. And that's what we did. We took all those ideas, the best parts of those ideas, we localized it, and then we came up with a document that would serve Nigerian football in the short, medium, and long term. And we presented that to the NFF. Tell you what, there's a reason you haven't heard of that report, or probably I'm sure most of you are hearing it for the first time. It's because a lot of people felt threatened by what was in that report, and they pressured Amaju Pinnick to kill it. Some FA chairman, league, because they told that if that report was ever, if it was ever to sign that report, they will not vote for him. He will not come back for a second term. And Amaju, of course, killed it. So a few months later, the National Sports Commission also did something similar. Not exactly the same, but something similar. I think they come up with a 10-year plan or something like that, a 10-year roadmap for Nigerian football, which also incorporated a lot of the stuff that we had in that document. And again, it was presented to the NFF. And as I speak to you, nothing has been done. Now, the reason I say all this, Tiwa said this 1 hour is small. I know, unfortunately, I have other things, so I can't afford to. And again, like I said, I want to be respectful of time. The other time I said 1 hour, went an hour and 30. Before that, went over 2 hours. So I'm trying to keep this as short up to within the 1 hour time box. I'd rather do this 2 times, like today and then tomorrow, than do more than 1 hour here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do this one, do my monologue, get as many people as I want to come on in the 1 hour, and then maybe tomorrow I can have another one where you guys can, have your say. But so take note of anything you want to say today. Maybe you might end up saying it tomorrow, but I'll try and keep mine to maybe like the first half hour and then let you guys join me for the second half hour. But anyway, but for the comments, I'm going to be putting the comments up on YouTube so you guys can look at it. By the way, give me a second. Let me even, I should actually put I should have put the link to this thing on, if somebody has the link to because I'm not sure if I still have it. If somebody has the link to the StreamYard, please put it on the comments so that other folks can join, because I can't seem to Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Oh no, shoot, cancel. Let me see. Crap. Okay, you know what? Yeah, if anybody can find the link, please put it on the. I think those of you guys on YouTube, you have the link, the link there. So if you can just put it on the page, and I'll pin it so that everybody can see. But yeah, let me just get back to what I was saying. I've already taken like 2 minutes, so I'm going to stretch again to my personal hour. So in essence, what I'm saying about why I'm bringing it up is the fact that I'm saying there's no solution that the current task force the NFF has set up will come up with to say this is why we failed at WAFCON or at the World Cup that will not be found in those 2 documents that have already been presented. There's nothing that this committee, this task force will come, oh, was it coaching? It's there. Was it preparation? It's there. It was covered. Was it players? It's covered. So there's nothing that this task force is going to do now that has not been done already. So in essence, they're just spending money to get answers to get answers that are already been presented to the NFF. And that's why I said it's a political show to show people, yeah, we're doing something about this failure to qualify. And I'm not saying this to yab the NFF or to critique. I'm saying it to know, so that we can know that it's not necessary, because the answers are there already. And we're not just talking about one administration. We're not just talking about the Gusau administration. You know, I think we've all seen that secretary thing where it showed that the Gusau administration has failed to qualify for 10 tournaments in total. Amaju's second term failed to qualify for 8. Amaju's first term failed to qualify for 6. Is it Megari or Megari was 6, tied with Amaju, and so on and so forth. But the point is, over the last 2 NFF administrations, we failed to qualify for major tournaments, a total of, so that's 10 plus 8, 18 plus 6, that's 24. So between Amaju and Gusau, we failed to qualify for 24 major tournaments. That is more than the last, how many of them? In fact, that's more than every other NFF leadership before them. That's more than any other, between the 2 of them. They've failed to qualify for major tournaments more than any other before them. All of their ones, and I mean all of the other ones combined, though, because I think Megari was 2. Lulu was 2. Megari was, I don't know, I'll have to look it up, but essentially those ones were less than 5. But within these 2, we have 24. Sorry. Ambrose says, got it. Yeah, you got it. My name is correct. You spelled it correct. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's how bad it's been. And that's why I said the problem is not with one. It's not with the leadership per se. It is with the entire structure. So we have this tree. Let's read that. We have this tree, and we're seeing that the leaves are rotten, right? So now this task force, just like every other solution, is like, oh, okay, this part of the leaf is, oh yeah, let's snip it off. We cut it off. And then tomorrow you see the other one is bad. Okay, let's cut that one off. It's bad. The other one. Meanwhile, the main problem is at the root. We have not addressed the main issue. So what we need to do is to uproot that tree and plant another one. We want shade, but instead of providing shade, the current tree now is only, the branches are going rotten, so you're not getting the shade. So uproot that tree, plant a new one, and then let that new one provide the shade that you want. That's exactly what we need with Nigerian football right now. And the reason I say this is because if you go back and look at that stuff I'm talking about, you find that of the failures is the last 4. So Megari was 6. Before that, yeah, I think Megari was 6. Amaju was 6. Then Amaju 8. Then Gusau 10. So there's been a progressive rise in our failures to qualify for major tournaments, starting with, or going all the way back to, is it Megari? Yeah, I mean Megari. Not Megari. Yeah, Megari, Lulu, and then all the way up here. Timothy said Madugu needs to go. Yeah, Madugu has gone. The NFF has fired him. They told him, there was a tweet, if you haven't seen that today, that Marigold should step down with his people. Ambrose, yeah, you spelled it correctly, and you also got the Obon correctly. Oh, thank you very much, Jibril, for sharing the. Let me copy it and paste it here. Yes, I'm going to paste. So I'm pasting the StreamYard link. So for those who would like to join, I don't know if I can pin that, but yeah. So, but yeah, it's 30 minutes. I'll try and see if I can make this as fast as possible. So, but yeah, so that's my point exactly. The problem is down there at the root. So now the NFF has done two things. The first one, they've asked Madugu to step down. In effect, they fired him. The second one, in the sort of a task force to investigate why the Super Falcons failed and also why the Super Eagles probably failed and all of that. But the answers to those questions are in two documents that they already have. So this committee, this task force is not necessary. The second thing is the NSC apparently took a decision, or they have taken a decision to say, hey, they will suspend the NFF elections coming up in September and set up a 3-month normalization committee. Now, one thing, I know that that report it's not official, but I did speak to a very senior NSC official this afternoon, just before I came on live, and he confirmed to me that even though there has been no formal statement, press release, or anything from the NSC, that is actually what they are thinking of doing. And the only thing holding them back for now is that they want to just see the president and confirm it and make sure they have the final go-ahead from the president. But that's their proposal that they're taking to the president. So once the president approves it, that's what's going to happen. They're going to suspend the NFF elections and then put a timeline, a 3-month normalization committee in place to start to work towards, reforming the NFF essentially. And that means that, it's going to be more than just the current administration. It's going to go down again to the root of the matter, which is the NFF statutes. Because if we just look, removing Gusoto doesn't solve the problem, because the replacement is still going to be working under the same conditions, the same failed faulty floor structure. So for us to have real, long-lasting, consistent change, that the NFF statutes have to be torn apart and put together again and opened up for outsiders to come in and be able to run for office, both at the state level and at the national level. Patrice Motsepe became president of CAF, not because he was an FA president or whatever. He came in almost as an outsider. In fact, he had to give up his controlling or holding whatever it is, ownership structure at Sundowns to become CAF president. He passed it on to his son. Gianni Infantino, who is currently FIFA president, was not a member of any FA or any club. He just came in direct from UEFA and became FIFA president. So anybody can run for FIFA president. All you have to do is get 5 signatures from 5 member associations endorsing you, and you're qualified to run. So if that can happen with FIFA and with CAF, why is it that the NFF remains a closed mafia where only FA chairmen can run and can vote and be voted for? Why? Why do our sports have to be so closed out? Whether it's football, whether it's athletics, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, why can't we have, structure that help us to succeed, not the ones that pull us back? And so that's why I said, even if you set up this normalization committee, it's not just about removing this administration. It's about building the structures and processes that allow them to succeed. So that even if it is Gusso that comes back tomorrow, he comes back to a structure that allows him to work and be successful, not the one that ties him and limits him from what he's able to accomplish. If we don't do that, then this whole thing's going to be a waste of time. They might as well just let them continue to run. Gusso does this 4 years, wins another 8-year term, he goes, somebody else comes in and does the same thing, and 4 years later, we're still back to square one. Maybe we look it and qualify for one World Cup, but we continue to lose elsewhere. Because let's not make any mistake. The reason for this problem is a failure at youth level. We won the Under-17 World Cup in 85. A lot of players from that team went on to go to the Under-20s. The likes of Nduka Ogbade, I think Fatai Atere made it by a little bit. Who was that other one? Chris Ohehe was also there. Jonathan Akpobore was also part of that team that, won the Under-17 World Cup. We got to the Under-20s, the same thing. Ohehe, Mutiu Adepoju and co from, I think that was the 85, 87 team. Christopher Ohehe, Chris, what did that Chris again? Is that Christopher again? 93 World Cup and the 17 World Cup that we had. From there, we came the likes of Kanu, what's his name again? Kanu, Oruma, Babayaro, a lot of them, I keep forgetting. Then Okocha came from the 93 Under-20s, even though their team didn't qualify, but they came from that team. So and then the 2005 team, I guess, was one of our most successful because we had Mikel, we have Sani Keita, and Obuke's Victor Sofo, and so on, came from that 2005 Under-20 team. So over time, we kept producing those players from youth level that made it onto the national team. Someone like Asidat Oshola played at Under-17, Under-20 before she made it onto the World Cup. Same with Francisca Odega. So that pipeline was there. But now notice that in all these failures that I've mentioned, the senior failures are maybe just about 3. That's the World Cup here. Most of the failures have come at Under-17 and Under-20 level, and that is where the problem lies. We are making noise now because it's a World Cup, so everybody's like, World Cup, World Cup. But the main issue that we're not seeing is that the failure starts from our inability to qualify for the Under-17, Under-20s. So the bulk of all those failures, when you count 10 failures for, let's say, Gusau, for instance, only 1 is at senior level. That's this Women's World Cup that he's failed to qualify for. Everything else is under something, under this, under that. And that should be frightening to all of us, that we cannot qualify for junior tournaments. So how do you expect to win at the top level? Same thing with Amaju. If you take out the 2022 World Cup that we failed to qualify for in that second term, the bulk of the other failures were at a youth level, Under-17, Under-20, U23s. That is where the problem is. So the question now becomes, how do we resolve all that? And it's not by plastering the situation and saying, hey, look, you know what? Let's put Band-Aid on the problem. It means let's go down to the root of the problem. Why are we not qualifying for junior tournaments? Because it is only by qualifying for junior tournaments that we can say, yes, now we have the quality. And why are we not doing that? Because there's too much corruption around that process. Way too much corruption around that process. We don't have a structure to identify, develop, and monitor players from Under-13 all the way to senior level. And that is where we need to start from. And this is from a football point of view. So all the admin issues aside, we have to look at all of that. And so again, that's why I said this, this task force is not going to produce any answers that have not been answered before. The NFF have 2 documents, 2 detailed documents in front of them that answer, that answer every question that they want this committee to answer. In fact, if I was this committee, that aircraft again. If I were this committee, I would definitely not bother with doing any further work. These 2 weeks they have would be to just go dig up those 2 documents, look at them, and say, hey, look, you know what? Oh, sorry, I was just, why did I pin? Okay, so that's the StreamYard link in case anybody wants to join. But I have Jubril in here, and I'm going to bring him. Um, I'm going to bring him on in a little bit. You know. So yeah, Taiwo, thank you. Kudos. Some people were just naming some of the players that came from that team. I think I saw somebody naming. Oh, let me see. I think I found that. I think I put that somewhere up here. But yeah, you know, Oluwashina, that's what I'm talking about. This task force. That's what I'm explaining now. You know. So these are all the issues that we have. And that's why I said that the NFF doesn't need this task force. If this task force wants to know, yeah, sorry, on Instagram, that's what I was looking for your comment. Elvon, yeah, you mentioned Mutiu and Dimeji Lawal, Ubade were all from the U89 team. Yes, exactly. Sorry, U20 under 20, 89. While Okocha, Akwebu, Taribo were in 93 set. Yeah, exactly. So they were on the 93 under 20 team. And they came through to the Super Eagles. Taiwo was from the 2005 team that came on to the Super Eagles. So for years, we're transferring players direct from U20, U17 to U20, U20 up till the senior team. Now, what are we doing? We're focusing on, oh, this player is in Germany. He's playing for a team. Let's go and nationalize him. This one is in England. Oh, he's good. Let's go and bring him in. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm all for, if anybody has listened to me, I'm all for bringing diaspora players. But we also have to do that side by side with the home-based pipeline. Nothing says that we cannot bring in our diaspora-born players, but at the same time, we also have to have a direct, structured pipeline for bringing the young players from home into our national teams. I'm in the Nigeria Diaspora Talent Committee, which means that part of my brief, especially because I'm based here in the US, is to look around and see players of Nigerian origin who are here and try to connect them, the ones who want to play for Nigeria, connect them with the various, whether it's basketball, football, any sport at all, if they are willing to make that switch, to help them make that transition from here to there. And it's a job that I take very seriously. But at the same time, I'm also very passionate about making sure that players at home get an equal opportunity to come in and represent Nigeria from a pipeline that supports and helps them develop. So that's why I don't think this thing is necessary. That task force is necessary, because then they're not. And I look forward to reading the report, because I want to see what report they come up with and then compare it with what we produced in 2020 and see where there are any significant differences. And I can bet you there will be none, because they're only going to come out and repeat exactly what we say. Is it coaching? Is it player selection? Is it preparation? All of those things were covered in the report that we presented to the NFF, but people did not like it, so they spiked it. So that's as much as I'm going to say. I think I've gone well over the time. I wanted to use 30 minutes to do my monologue, so I'm going to give you guys a chance to speak for your own. Sorry, guys. IG guys, Jubril is on hold on. Oh shoot. Hang on a second. I have to take out my AirPod, because otherwise people on IG won't hear me. Jubril is on YouTube, so I've taken my AirPods off, so hopefully you guys can hear. All right, Jubril, go ahead. Hopefully the guys.
Hello.
You guys on
Can you hear me?
IG Live. If you can't hear Jubril, please just give me.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. So you've good afternoon. Yes, and thank you for setting up this space. I mean, I'm disappointed because and yet again I'm not disappointed if we look at it, because Osasu has been shouting since last year on Twitter that the NFF is neglecting the Super Falcons. No friendly games, no proper, encouragement from the FA to try and see if they can defend their title. And unfortunately, what Osasu predicted came to pass. And for me, of course, we know the FA, they've always been the FA we know of since the days of Sani Lulu. But I believe this particular failure, majority of the blame is on the coach, on Madugu. One thing I noticed about Madugu's selection is he seems biased towards the foreign-born players. He doesn't like playing them. And
By the way, sorry, before you go on, before I forget, let me tell you something about the goal that I found out towards, I think that was before the quarter final. Yeah. So I spoke to a couple of players, and the question I was asking was, if you don't feel comfortable with the way Madugu is playing, why don't you go and speak to him and say, hey, coach, you know what? Can we do this instead, or can we do that? And what they told me shocked me. And when I say, because sometimes when I speak to players, I speak to them independently. So if I speak to this player now, I'm not going to speak to I'm going to speak to another player later, so that to see whether what they tell me kind of agrees. And what I got out of that was that players, if a couple of players had gone to Madugu to speak to him about, about maybe how they play or how they would like to play, and when they do that, he benches them. They don't get to play anymore. So he doesn't let that he gets upset because he looks at it as if it's a challenge to his authority. And when you think about it, some of these players are players who come from environments where, as a player, you can go and speak to your coach and say, hey, coach, you know what? This is that. And you listen as a coach and you say, well, I can learn from this. And, oh, no, but in the end, the final decision rests with me. And then you go ahead and do it. But to directly punish a player for coming to you to speak to you, I don't think that's a given. And I say this because I'm not saying, part of why I kind of didn't want to say this earlier was because the team was in competition. So I didn't want to make it look as if trying to create division in camp. But these are things that I heard from at least two different players independent of each other, telling me that when they've gone to speak with Madugu, they've been punished. Either they've been benched or they face other kind of punishment. And I think that's wrong. But go ahead.
Yeah, so then Madugu listing injured players that are just coming back from injury spell for this tournament was another failure on his part. We have players everywhere around Europe and America, even home-based. He didn't invite them. He stuck to the older, the better. And it was evident against the younger Cameroon because the Cameroonian players are younger. They are more physically fit than our players. They were winning most of the duels. Of course,
I disagree with that. No, I disagree because I've watched that game twice, right? And the only game where we're not winning duels was the game against Malawi. Every other game that we played, we won our duels. The one against Cameroon in particular, go and look at the stats. We dominated possession. We had more tackles. We won almost everything. We had more shots, everything. So I disagree with you that we were dominated. So on that case, I would not agree with you there. I think if it comes to that Cameroon game, I think that game was the one game where we played better than Cameroon. They were, I would say, more strategic about the way they played, in the sense that, they got lucky. They got a free kick that, was stupid from our players. They scored it again from a brain freeze, and then they just held on to what they had. So I disagree that they won duels against us. Malawi game is the only game that I agree that we lost our duels. But go ahead.
So I will be rounding up. So for me, Waldrum that was sacked, Waldrum has UEFA A license coaching badge.
Mm-hmm.
Madugu, I don't think he has any license because apart from this Super Falcons job, I don't think Madugu can get any other job on African continent because
he has his license. He has his CAF licenses.
CAF? I mean, the Super Falcons as a team is the biggest sporting brand that Nigeria should be pushing out there to attract the best of the best coaches. We should not be looking at CAF coaches. We should be challenging for the World Cup. We have won this tournament 10 times. In fact, I'm not really worried we didn't win this tournament. We should be looking at the World Cup. I'm pained because we won't be qualifying for the World Cup because that should be our target. We cannot be, before any team can catch up with us winning the trophy 10 times, it will be very difficult. Before any team can win it 10 times, we will still win it maybe 2 or 3 times before then. So I'm not really disturbed about we not winning this tournament. So we should be looking at the World Cup because majority of people were saying Madugu won the last championship. That's why it's better than Randy Waldrum. For me, Waldrum did more for us as a country because he introduced younger players that Madugu is now banking on for this current squad. Madugu, Waldrum brought in a young, what's her name? This is very midfielder from the under-17 squad straight into the national, into the Super Falcons. Waldron brought in this lady, Okoro Nkwotu, into the squad.
Almost all the,
the
players,
open trials,
almost all the
the
players.
open trials Waldron had in the US discovered her when she came into the camp to play, to see if she can get in. So all these players, most of them were brought in by Randy Waldron. What Madugu now has not even introduced any new player into the squad. Instead, he brought back retired legs that Waldron has frozen out of the squad.
I think I have had this boy in the on the comment. Yeah, so I like him to have it before I can round up.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I bring on Addis, let me just read this. So Kudus says, can we build a so Kudus is on YouTube. He says, can we build a grassroots diaspora camp in the US and the UK and link with home base and blend them? I see our strength in recruitment on both ends. Yeah, we've already started that now. Many people don't know, but just in July, we had a Nigeria diaspora talent. We organized something like that where we had basketball players. I think Sarah Ogoke, the former the Tigers captain, was there in the UK. I should have been there, but I had other things to do, so I didn't go. Sheyi Fasuba, Soji Fasuba, sorry, who was a former 100-meter record holder, was there to train the athletics guys. Sheyi Olofinjano, who of course you all know as Super Eagles, former Super Eagles midfielder and current Chelsea youth trainer, was there for the football. Then we had the netball team and others, and then we had the taekwondo. Jonathan from taekwondo was also there. So we had that talent camp in the UK to identify UK-based talent that will probably be recommended back home. There's another one planned for the US sometime next year that we're going to do. But over time, the plan is to make those things on an annual basis so that we can identify talents early and then, help them get through the pipeline for those who actually want to represent Nigeria. So yes, that's being done as we speak. Then on IG, Elvon Dennis says, is it possible to have access to the report your committee submitted? No, unfortunately not. It's not a public report. It's with the NFF. Maybe at some point they don't release it, or they don't. Maybe somebody might, but I don't know yet. I mean, I'm not sure of the legality of releasing a report that has not been qualified. So I'm not going to go into that right now. So I'll leave it for now. All right, thank you very much, Jubi. Let me bring Addis Boy on. We have about 7 minutes. So Addis Boy, I'll let you do this I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay.
Round
okay, that's fine.
I'm not going to go beyond 1 hour today.
Yeah, cool. That's fine. It wouldn't take me so long. I agree with what you said about the youth teams, the youth structure. I think since 2019, I think it's been virtually non-existent, and it boils down to our structural problem, the kind of human beings that we have running the NFF, and if the NFF is not reorganized, it won't change. I don't say it changes. You understand? There's so much. I put it this way: I think the most unpatriotic human beings are the administrators. They are the most These guys don't care about Nigeria. If they did, but at the end of the day, everybody points fingers at the players. Those are the players. Oh, they lost. These guys are not putting effort. They are not patriotic. Blah blah blah. But the most unpatriotic people are the administrators. These are the ones. You see what they do to the under-17. There's all of a sudden, Manu Garba, who won the under-17 with Kiana just said, automatically became a bad coach when he now had when the second time around. Why? Because they were meddling. It now became like a marketplace, which they were going there peddling their wares. So that foundation that used to, because at the end we used to succeed in spite of the administration, but because we had that foundation where you can see those boys come up, you introduce all these young players come up, at least that covered for the cracks most of the time. But when that thing has been so corrupted, that this is where we are at the moment. Like before Eric Shell came, we were wondering. I remember I was talking to my younger brother. I was saying, look, where will we get the replacements for Osimhen, Iwobi? Because you can't say anything coming from the under-20s. There was none, and it was a scary thought. Until what he started doing, going abroad, looking for all these young players. And again, he's even looked inward to the local league. to see who we can find, you know. And it would have been much easier if we had that on that youth conveyor belt, you know. But these guys have totally, for their own personal benefit, totally destroyed it, you know. And if you notice, they've been ignoring the female team. That's why they've been doing well. Now the female team is on the line, like they're now putting their hands in and now destroying it. You know, so you know, I don't. There's not much time to go into Madugu and all his issues, but the fact is, if we don't get rid of the system, as he said, do what we need to do now, change the whole structure, you know, because we're being held to ransom by the state FA chairman. Can you imagine them coming out and say, "Oh, they put a post of continuity"? So are we going to continue not qualifying? You know.
All right, thank you very much.
I don't get people.
We got like
All
4 minutes to go,
thanks.
so let me just take some other
Thanks,
comments.
Colin. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I've got. Let me see. This one says, Kudus again says the event wasn't well advertised because I reside in the UK. Something like this needs proper advertising. Thank you. I agree. Yeah, we didn't do enough of that because it was very short notice. So we wanted to do this later in the year, but so between when the committee was set up, which was early this year, and when we wanted to do it later in the year, but the NSC also wanted it done just before the Commonwealth Games, so it gives a chance for everybody to be around, and it made sense for us. So we kind of hurried it, and it was successful. There was a successful event. There were a lot of kids that came through. So, but yeah, we're hoping that the next time we want to do it, and we're doing a debrief. Next time we want to hold this, we're going to there'll be a longer runway, and and it promoted much closer. But if you want to follow everything, just go on Instagram. There's Nigeria Diaspora Talent Committee, Nigeria Diaspora Leadership Committee. You can follow from there, and you can see all the events. But we're definitely going to make it a much more advertised much better going forward. From Instagram, there's a comment here. Benga again says, "Thank God Madugu has gone. Now who will take over? As we have little light hope in the Olympic qualifiers coming in a few months." Yeah, Olympic qualifiers I think start in is it October? Yeah, we've got games in October, so we need to have a coach in place. Hopefully before mid-September. In fact, we're already in mid-August, so we need to have a coach in place by beginning of September at the very least. So at least the person can start, monitoring players and knowing what needs to be done, scouting opposition and all of that. So the earlier we get that done, the better. Hopefully the NFF will get that done. But we do need a coach in place in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, having said that, let me just make sure that I have Al Hassan General says NFF board need to go. Well, I think the NSC agrees with you there, so that's why they are doing what they are doing. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to see if I can see any comments from here. Ace Empire Entertainment says grassroots is the opium of the senior level. You're very correct. Let me see, is there anything else? Samuel Mba, I think that's what the normalization committee will do, restructure. Yes, and that restructure, again, like I said, the restructure is if you just come out and say, hey, Guso and Co, go. You have not changed anything, because whoever is coming is not, first of all, it's not going to be significantly different, because when you look at the pool where you're going to draw a replacement from, is from the state FA chairman and the NFF board. And when you look at that and see, okay, this is where, under the current statute, this is where the replacement is going to come from, like, who can you pick there and say this person is the one that will change things? It's not there. Secondly, when you look at it and think, okay, under what structure will they work? Under the same statutes, they're already failing right from before they even come in. So it's not about the personnel, it's about the structure, the process, the tools they have to work with. And those are the things that need to change, not the who. It is the what. Because even the Guso, if you put Guso that all of us are shouting about in a good system that supports him, you are not going. You're definitely okay. If you put Gusso in a system that supports him, he probably won't have all of these, because even if he doesn't have where he has gaps, they will be filled by others. And like I said, all these failures did not just happen under Gusso. You go back the top 3 failures that we've seen, or failures to qualify for major tournaments that we've seen in the last 3 administrations, have all been progressively here. So from 6, 6, 8, 10. So we have been getting progressively worse. 6, 6, 8, 10. That means maybe by the time the next one comes along under the same system, it will now go up to 12. And we don't want that to happen. Anyway, I've reached my 1 hour limit. And so I'd like to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. And hopefully we can do this again tomorrow, where I can give you guys more of a chance to speak. But I've reached my 1 hour limit, actually 1 hour and 1 minute. So thank you very much for joining me, and I really appreciate you. We'll do this again another time. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good week.